Hello and welcome to the Celtic World. I can hear myself for some reason echoing. Don't know why that is. But anyway, we're the YouTube channel and podcast that leans into the fact that Celtic fans are all over this great big planet. And just to shake off the rustiness, I'll pull up another thing and say from Greenock to Greece, Fort William to Fulham, wherever you happen to be watching from, you're part of a Celtic world. And this echo is going to drive me crazy. I don't know if anyone else is picking that up. If you're picking that up back home.
Yeah, just slightly. I can hear it, Gav. I don't know where it's coming from, though. It sounds like it's your end.
My end. Well, I'm going to pass it over to you. A few words, Brian. How have you been?
Not too bad, Gav. Not missing football as much as I thought it would be, and certainly haven't been watching any of the international draws. Uh, yeah, it's good to unwind. I'm ready to get ready to get my football fix. It's just strange the weekend. There's only so much horse racing you can look at, but I haven't been looking really at. I know what you guys are. I haven't been looking at the internet in terms of news stories and things. I'll just wait till they happen. Good to see KT finally sign on for us on a bumper 5-year deal. There seems to be good activity around some other players that Brendan's worked with before. A few
Well, don't be getting ahead of yourself, otherwise
Not
you'll
getting
run through the
ahead,
entire run sheet in your welcome message.
I would never get ahead of myself, Gav. Anyway, Kaiser, how have you been, sir?
Living my best life. Celebrated my 43rd birthday yesterday.
Happy
Went
birthday.
out, had a meal, having a good time. Went for a walk last week. Slipped on a grassy knoll while trying to climb a fence, hurted my leg, and went for a scan at the hospital, only to discover I had a blood clot in my leg. So I was actually lucky that I hurted myself, or they never would have found it. So I'm on blood thinner medication and stuff, but living my best life anyway. Planning a wedding. Planning a wedding.
Well, that's pretty scary. Hope everything goes well with the blood clot.
Yeah.
I mean, not the wedding. Whose wedding are you
Yeah.
planning?
My own.
Your
My
own?
own. Yeah, it's 23 years with Mrs. Soze, and I've decided I kind of like her. We're going to get married. So we've not done it in the past, but we've been engaged for several years and just decided now is the time. Kickboxing is massive.
You sure you're not rushing into it after 23 years?
I thought I would contemplate it, take my time, peruse over the decision. That 23 years together, and we decided to get it done.
Are you going to get married at Celtic Park?
I was actually looking at Celtic Park, Brian, but when you take that venue, you need to take everything that goes with it. So you need to be served food by Celtic, and as you can imagine, they exploit you. Peter Lawwell is there with his can. You see him here, mate. The fat controller's there. He's like, yeah, there's some money.
He's like the priest that you have to pay. You have to slip him a couple of £100.
Yeah,
so that's fantastic. Brilliant.
It's not happening in paradise, but I'm looking forward to it, bro. Booked for next April. So April next year, the boys will be getting an invite.
Oh.
The boys will be getting an invite. Except Gav, you're not coming, Gav. I'm kidding on. Of course, Gav.
Never mind that. When and where is the stag? That's
when and where's the stag. My best friend's actually arranging it, right? But because of all the health implications and stuff, I'm actually back training. Stop smoking. I'm on the patches, Brian. I'm on the nicotine patches. Stop smoking, and I don't drink, mate. So we're trying to plan something that's going to be a sort of clean stag do. I'm thinking maybe a bit of skydiving or a bungee jump.
So something that will risk my life. Dry stag do's. That's good news.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's going to be fun. So currently planning and trying to put things together to make it as fun as possible while sober.
Good stuff. Fantastic. Here's a message from Ampang Boy, which is David. KL's David, who's now in Vietnam. He says he watched the US show this morning on his way to work, and now he's watching the big show on his way home.
Nice.
Celtic World is just always there for you, David. Look forward to your return. Yeah, so the American show is we've done two of them now. Shawnee and Chris are hosting and having different people on. They want to plan. Their sort of plan over the summer is to do one every fortnight and sort of
Mhm.
iron out all the kinks. And I know, we're so professional lads that we make this look incredibly easy and flawless, but there's lots of things can go wrong, and you can
Yes.
only learn it by getting them wrong.
Exactly.
So over the summer, they're going to
You
press
learn
all the wrong
nothing
buttons.
by doing everything right. It's when your back's against the wall and the Wi-Fi's down, and we lose one of our main men and Paul due to technical issues.
That just
And
happened, yeah.
God forbid it would be me and you, Kaiser.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
the wheels have come off. The wheels have come off, Brian. It happens. That's
All right.
the point of doing this live and coming here and bringing not only that, right, but in the close season, for me watching podcasts and that, it's kind of religious. I get up in the morning. I know I've got my go-to podcasts that I watch every morning. The people in the chat as well, you end up discussing things being talking to every single day. So you miss it. I certainly miss it when the pods aren't on and when the shows aren't on. Enjoyed watching the show last night. The American boys bring a different take to things and their own opinions on things. And you're 100% right. I believe it was Ange Postecoglou who always says you learn more from a single defeat than 100 victories. So doing your podcast and getting things wrong, you learn more there and then than you do getting it right every single time. So I'm
There's
glad
Keith.
Paul's mic broke this morning.
There's Keith in the comments. Come on, the Hoop Celtic. All right, Keithy.
Oh,
He's keeping everyone up to date with the news. So, our general attitude during the low season, close season, is not to talk about every single rumor out there. We're not a daily channel. We're only doing one show a week, and half of those are CSC specials. So we're only effectively meeting once a fortnight. So
yeah.
that should give us time to talk about what's really happened and
Mm-hmm.
what's very likely to happen. We can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff a bit, Brian, wouldn't you say? So, well, let's start with what's definitely happened, as you've already foreshadowed. Brian, the return of
Katie,
Kieran Tierney. Did you
just great
shed
to
a
see.
tear?
I wasn't too emotional. I was glad to see him back and glad to see another leader in there, somebody who knows what Celtic is about. My only kind of worry about him is injury. God love him. I hope we can protect him and get him all there's. I don't know what the rumors are about his latest injury or his withdrawal. I'm hoping it was just you know a withdrawal because he was going to be doing all this media stuff prior to signing. Uh, if the truth be told, I wasn't too happy with Steve Clark bringing him on for a meaningless game, but that's Steve Clark for you. I would love if KT just retired from Scotland. Sorry, Scotland fans, but I would love him just to do a Calmac and just focus on us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But great to see him back. Great to see somebody who gets it, who knows what it's about, and who can you can bring on the younger ones as well. But again, I
Because
think
he's a bit of a senior statesman, isn't he? There's only three players older than him. Did you see that? Only three players
Jamesy
in the
and
squad.
Jamesy Casper and Cal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he's no spring chicken.
Mm.
He's been around, and he was in high demand, if you believe
oh
some of
yeah,
these reports. Offers from Bayer Leverkusen, Juventus, Sevilla, and Everton, according to Everything Celtics tweet there. What do you think
Yeah.
of that, Kaiser?
Yeah. 100%. It's a coup to have Kieran Tierney returning, such a world-class talent, and of course his fitness. There's clouds over his fitness and his ability to remain fit. Me as well was raging with Steve Clark bringing him on in a meaningless game, but the guy wants to play and there's no stopping him. He's just that kind of player. He has that passion and drive, and there would have been a lot of suitors after Kieran Tierney. Fantastic player. Make no mistake about it. The fact that he loves Celtic, he's just like me and you. He loves the Celtic too. And that's why he's here. That's why he's returned. That's why he's back at Celtic. I'm really looking forward to seeing Kieran Tierney flying up and down the wing. The prospect of Maeda being out there or Jota being out there when he returns from injury as well. Salivating, but crossing the ball and hitting the byline, providing crosses. I think we need to find someone who's going to finish those crosses, because Liam Scales can't be the only person that's heading the ball. And currently he is the only person that heads the ball. So I think we need a bit of an aerial master, someone who can finish with a head, someone who can capitalise on those 30 crosses and 12 corners a game, and maybe stick a few in the back of the net. Got to be good for about 20, 30 goals a season doing that. You think big Adam Ida would just be running and jumping and throwing his forehead at the ball, but remains to be seen.
I think it's a good bit of succession planning. Kate, I mean, he's going to be the captain when Calmac eventually sort of takes a sidestep or moves upstairs. So it's good to have that in place, and I think that's very important to have. The captaincy is not sort of thrown around like, I don't know,
Something
thrown
that's
around like
easily
Eric
thrown
Briscoe's
around.
cards. Well,
Like a Scudmag and Berlin.
but
Uh,
just to see another leader, another captain on the
yeah,
pitch is just fantastic.
yeah. I saw some people speculating that, if we do go out and buy that central defender that is a real good foil for CCV, a partner that he deserves, then imagine that back line if they're all on form. Our first choice back line,
Yeah.
that back four could be absolutely amazing, provided they're all, etc., etc. I see JJ McGarvey here is suggesting that if that's not the case, get him in centre mid for the Glasgow
Hmm.
Derby so we no longer get bullied.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what
hoping.
interesting. I think
it's important
Brendan
to see
loves
him.
a player who can play in a couple of positions, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still holding out hope that we'll make a tactical switch and play the 3-5-2, and it won't be as much an issue getting a partner for CCV. Another reason why I've seen the Christoph Ayer deals circulated, with him being told to find a new club as well at 27. Such a versatile player, can play left back, left centre back, defensive midfield. It really makes sense to bring him in. And also people rehashing the Penrice. I know Stephen loves that one so much. When I suggested that a long time ago, he went off his nut. But a lot of people suggesting that Penrice would be great cover as well. And also seeing Greg Taylor moving on. I believe he accepted a deal in Greece, getting paid about 12 grand a week in hotter climates. Kind of trashes the fact that people in the community were shouting that Greg Taylor wanted 25 grand a week, considering he was on roughly 12 grand a week at Celtic. And we all know that every single week Celtic players get a win bonus because they win a lot. And that was one of the running jokes with Greg Taylor. I would always say he's dug meat, but he's won a lot. And that's the kind of dug meat he is.
What did you say he's on reportedly then in this new deal?
About 12 grand a week, which I would
In
snap your hand off
PAOK?
myself. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
So it kind of it makes you look at if he's accepted those terms in that deal. Maybe it wasn't the club and it wasn't the wage expectations that were, and he wasn't being as demanding of the wages. People saying he was wanting 25 grand a week and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's the rumour mill that circulates. People pretend to be in the know while absolutely knowing nothing. No one knows what goes on in the internal workings of Celtic. It's like the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah, you just deal with the ramifications when it's open, and you get exposed to whatever's coming out of there. But yeah,
Who wouldn't
as I said,
fancy a few years in Thessalonica in Greece? Living the life. That'd be nice.
smashing
Hey, Brian,
plates left, right, and centre. You never do another dish.
you ever been to Greece, Brian?
I was
I've
in
never been
Crete
to Greece.
several years ago with a
Yeah.
few still friends, Diggs, Buzz, and a couple others, and cheapest chips. And I
Uh-huh.
decided to go for the local. It was like goulash, not goulash. It was, I can't remember, some feta cheese dish, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was good crack, but again, very basic, and there was issues with issues with you weren't allowed to flush toilet paper down the toilets
Is
when
that
you were
connected to your food choice? You suddenly
probably
moved from food choice to toilet.
yeah.
Is there
So
something missing in this story?
they got we our apartment got got grief from the owners because we were not using we were putting the toilet paper down the sink as opposed, or not the sink, down the toilet as opposed to putting it in the bin, and
Yeah.
it was
Doing the
stupid. Well,
same.
also bought these replica guns when we were out there. It was good fun. They were like pellet guns, but they would hurt you, and so anybody that was destined for a lie-in was a walking by the opening line of NWA, F the police,
Mhm.
stupid. But yeah, not nice clean place. But
Not when you left, by the sounds of
no,
it.
no, 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 no.
Toilet paper in the sink.
It was great because I remember stealing a couple of lemons off a tree, thinking it was a real radical, because it's just lemons grow everywhere, and
Yeah.
obviously did well with the old gin. But there we go. Another very useless information about guns in NWA 420 somewhere. Yeah.
That's just Brian. Welcome to the reality that is
Anthony
Brian.
Bourdain on acid,
Ozzy Osbourne
All
has
right.
posters of Brian on his wall with the gun.
Now, I know everyone thinks this show's very ad hoc and we don't do any preparation or anything, but I had assigned sort of homework to everyone so they could all talk knowledgeably on, one player or maybe two. And of course, to Paul, we gave him this fella,
Well,
and then
I've been
Paul's
looking at
microphone
him.
decided
Do you want me
not
to
to play.
help with
So
this?
go ahead.
I've looked at him. He looks in a good wee player. He scored a hat trick in I think it's the Reserve Cup final against Spurs. I think it's called the Premier Cup. Colin Osmond. He's about 5'10", 5'11". Yeah, it just looks like a quick, tidy looking wee footballer who knows where the net is. I don't know if he's this big great star. I don't know how much money we're going to be paying for him, but I think it could be a Dembele kind of transfer where we pay a fee of a couple of $100,000 and get him in the door. But at the end of the day, he looked good. I mean, on his highlights reel, and then a lot of the highlights reel on YouTube was pitches that were like, there's about three people there, so it wasn't, but what's he bringing to the table that some of our youngsters aren't? Is what I would ask.
Or Kenny. He's the
Yeah,
third
for
choice
me,
striker, supposedly, right? So
I like the look of Osmond, very Gary Hooper-esque for what I've seen of him. Of course, people look fantastic on those YouTube reels. You never really know until you see the player playing. Very much a development signing. Brendan Rodgers working with him, and Brian says for like a nominal fee, I think it's something like 300,000, we'll end up paying a development fee for him, bringing him in. Not to be sniffed at. He has played at under 17s and under 18s level for Wales and England as well. So there's the potential there for access that lucrative money spinning English Premiership money should he continue to develop. Personally, I think Brendan Rodgers' season Dies in Maeda through the middle changed Brendan's scope on what he thinks a striker is for Celtic and what we can acquire. He always tends to go for the big target man and the person who links up the play. And I think Maeda playing up there and showing them that you can really cut the ball through and cut these teams open when we attack at pace. Maybe it's changed the thinking a bit and we're bringing in some other talent in some other places. What it says about the youth development for me is something I've been going on and on and on about. It's just not good enough. Having players at such a young level playing in a hammer throwers league, I'm sure it's men against boys and stuff, and they're toughened up and it's all the classic symbols of what you would expect, but you're risking these young guys' careers and they feel they're ready, but not enough patience. Look at the players who have went out, Ben Doak, Vata, all these players who we could have been using right now if they'd have hung around just a little bit longer, not chased the money and went down south because they were not chasing first team football because they're not getting that wherever they respectively moved to as well. Ben Doak went to Liverpool and was instantly loaned out. And so like Celtic could be doing that if they were willing to complete their footballing education here in Scotland, just like Brendan Rodgers was saying. stands testament to the fact that Celtic should be established in the Celtic group. I've said it over and over again. We should be purchasing a team in Ireland. I've suggested that we purchase Shamrock Rovers. Dermot Desmond already has shares in Shamrock Rovers. Purchase that club, get our young players over there, playing a good standard of football. The Irish League is a very good standard in pathways and access into European football.
House football either, guys, and they're protected by the referees. So I mean, was it Shamrock Rovers played against Chelsea in the Conference League, and I think it was a draw. I'm not too sure. I think it was a draw that Kenny might even have scored. But yeah, I'd rather get them out into have a bit of a pathway than playing the Lowland League and against a couple of lads like ourselves here just out to kick.
I think bridging that gap, Brian, to the first team, bridging that gap through European football, be it the Conference League or Europa League, whatever teams manage to qualify from Ireland, there's pathways into European football there. Certainly a striker coming in or players coming in who have developed at that level, making that jump into Celtic's first team. It's not so much a chasm as it seems from the Lowland League or Highland League, whatever they're playing in right now, such a low level, and trying to be brought into Celtic's first team setup and stuff. It just seems like an insurmountable chasm to leap. We've seen players go out the door. We've seen players lose. We've lost players. Clearly, we're developing players and they are talented, but we need to start accessing the proper funds and using our facilities correctly.
Is the Youth Champions League still going? Because I know we had a team a couple of years ago who did reasonably well in that, and they got a couple of good. I think they got a good result against Chelsea from memory, away from home. But I don't know if that's doing anything these days. Certainly the Youth Champions League. But there's Daniel Kelly, Daniel Cummings, Ben Doak, Vada, and then if you look at the young fella Dembele, Karamoko Dembele, and so on and so forth, and I think there was a keeper as well. So these are all guys that would have cost us nothing, and if they bided their time, they could have had an opportunity to play in the first team. Because certainly, when we're playing Johnny Kenny, there's certainly room for McCardle, room for Cummings and Ben Doak. Would have got a jersey certainly before him, but it's hard to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, and on that point, it sounds like Kenny's going to be off, loaned out or something if this boy's coming in to be third choice. But this one seems like something that is going to happen, doesn't it? There's talk of the medical is complete, just hasn't been announced yet. Do we all think this is a done deal?
Celtic have always, the marketing team at Celtic always like to release something on a Friday at 11 o'clock. That's their go-to for releasing information. So, I'm not down about them. If it happens, great. But it's not
the headline news we want, is it?
It's not Kvist Garden or Evan Ferguson or.
Well, we will get to all that, as you know, Brian. You've read and you've studied the run sheet in great detail, so you know exactly where we're going each step of the way. So that probably concludes the things that have happened or almost certainly have happened. And then we sort of step into the, speculative, but maybe there's something in this, these stories that aren't kind of going away, that maybe have the ring of truth to them. So who is it wants to talk about Nielsen Angulo? One of you two, if you have that in your spreadsheet.
I just briefly looked at him. To be honest with you, I don't know too much about him. He's an Ecuadorian international, left-sided midfielder, winger. You have to have a bit of faith in the Celtic scouting team, considering what they've brought in over the last few years for literally no money. So somebody's out there doing the due diligence on him. We do need wingers. We do need, with Jota being out and Jamesy coming to the end of his career. I don't know too much about him, but the fact that we've probably went in and lowballed, I don't know money wise, I don't even know what he's worth, maybe 4 or 5 million. at that age in his development. But certainly, imagine we've went in with like 300 grand or a mill or something like that, and they've said no. But it's the usual Celtic story.
Yeah, there's not really, I haven't seen any details on the numbers involved, but yeah, we're linked with tons of wingers. Now, I suppose we could talk about this at this stage before we get into the individuals too much. You say we need wingers because Jota's out until Christmas. Um, do we also need wingers because Yang is a lost cause and we're going to sell one of Kuhn and Maeda, or both, Kaiser?
Yeah, I think definitely we should be re-equipping. I think these players are going to move. Nicholas Kuhn, absolute symphony, amazing at the start of the season, like a crisp poke on the wind. There's just no stopping him, no shutting him down. Really fell off towards the end of the season, but I think if we can acquire funds for these players, Celtic love a winger. There's always wingers mentioned 24/7. Not so much on the defensive side, a defensive midfielder mentioned, or left back cover for Kieran Tierney. But Celtic love a winger. Not heard anything as of this moment, any big offers coming in for some of our top talent, but I think it's only a matter of time. This initial window that was open, I believe, was for the Club World Championships, and it was just like a refresher so as people could get players moving early. Celtic never do that. Brian's 100% correct. Probably went in there and bid a cornetto and 2 ginger bottles. You know what I mean? Never do a. Only under Ange Postecoglou did I see actually do our due diligence and bring these players in early. We're still reaping the benefits of players that Ange brought in for next to nothing. So I tend not to judge players as soon as I see them. I'm like, you can watch the YouTube videos and the compilations, but Lewis Palmer looked fantastic on them. So yeah. I'm not 100%.
And then you look at the likes of Mudryk that signed for Chelsea for 85 mil. And such a drop off in him. So I would always look at the attitude of the player before their ability, because you have the ability, but if you have the right attitude, that everything else can be coached. And Brendan's the guy I was quite excited about was the guy that was on. He played for Leicester. I think he's Malian. Gav, I'm jumping the gun here, but Rodgers has worked with him before. He's a winger. He's like, and not in DD. It's like that sort of name. Sorry for the research, but Brendan's worked with him. He's on a free.
I don't know if he's on the list.
Yeah, I think he's playing in Belgium, but he's on a free. Brendan's worked with him. He's young and he's hit something like 6 assists and 4 goals this season, which is maybe not a great return, but I think he was more a squad player. The name will come to me. I'll find it. But Brendan's definitely worked.
While you're searching for that name, let's deal with the ones that we've got listed down, and you can tell me where you think they lie in the sort of realistic sort of spectrum. So let's carry on with these wingers. Here's another one for you, Kaiser. Sondre Ojaseta, or however it is we pronounced it, I can't remember. Remember I played the correct pronunciation? Couldn't find that. I went looking for it. But everyone's saying Ojaseta. I don't think it's that. But this boy's name has come up before. And what's it say here? It's understood we face competition from Germany and the Netherlands. No concrete offers on the table as things stand, according to this tweet from Anthony Joseph. But we've reopened talks with this fella. What do you make of the fact that we're dealing with, there's so many wingers we seem to be interested in? Like I suggested earlier, is there going to be more room at the table because players leave? But other people have speculated, now we're just casting a wide net and, you go for 4, you end up with 2 sort of thing. You think that's what's going on?
I think we need to cast that net wide, because as soon as Celtic's mentioned with these players and their agents mention Celtic as well, it bumps our profile, it gets other clubs interested, and we see player values shoot through the roof. Look at Garden, for talking's sake, went from like £5 million rated player. Celtic bid 4 million as usual, and now the club's looking for in the region of 10 million for him. It's just things like that where we just never strike while the iron's hot. And I know the window's closed until the 16th. It's sort of a temporary closing of the window, and then it reopens on Monday the 16th, I think, next week. I believe Celtic have went out and just touched base basically with all these players and let them know that there's still interest there and possible moves. And as Brian says, judging the player character and stuff and how adverse they are to moving to Scotland and coming and working at Celtic and seeing how good they can grow their career. I'm liking the profile of players and the age range of the players that Celtic are looking at. And of course, we're going to... Balik Wisha is another one. We're still in another winger who's mentioned over and over again. So many. The guy has the skinniest wrists I've ever seen in my life. He could reach through your letterbox and steal your keys at your door. Look how skinny those arms are. My man needs to toughen. Let that band around his wrist. It's like, geez, oh, that could fit on my toe. Skinniest wrists I've ever seen in football. I don't know what he's pointing at there, but it's not a watch. If you better watch, he'll break his arm.
I got the name of that guy
too. As you say, the age of them and the profile and the highlights reel. You know, there's plenty of them look like these look like exciting guys. I wonder where it'll all pan out. Balakwisha must be happy, Brian, that we're still interested in him. He's had an injury-plagued season, and we were keen last summer, and we're keen again. And he's on the move.
That's the striker. The guy was playing in America, wasn't it?
This is the other winger from Antwerp.
I believe it was a thigh issue. He had tore a muscle in his thigh, kept him out basically all of last season. But Celtic were keenly interested in him beforehand. The deal looked like it was going to happen. It was a goer before his injury. And then, of course, the deal went cold. But he's looking to move. Celtic will be back in the fray. And, of course, we can all sit and speculate and look at these moves and hope for the best. For some of the players mentioned, it's not exactly the profile of player that I would expect Celtic to be out there getting, given how cash rich we are. And we're looking to compete in the Champions League. I'm sure if we are equipped for the Champions League, everything else will take care of itself. Domestically, cups, title challenges, or the lack of. If we are equipped for European football, especially at the top table, we're going to be stood in good stead. These players are out there, as Celtic prove with Nicholas Kuhn. There's players out there who may not have fulfilled their potential coming through big training camps, and I believe he was Leipzig and Bayern Munich or something training camp. Kuhn came through and then moved to RB Leipzig, and just never came to fruition for him there. But it seems to have turned the corner here at Celtic. And if we can make money on these players, bring them in and develop them, they're definitely in the shop window here at Celtic. I believe that is the mould we're going to be going for. Like younger players coming in, 3 years, 2 or 3 year life expectancy or shelf life at Glasgow Celtic, and then we're going to be looking for moving them on for a profit. Seems to be very successful, and we seem to be doing it very, very well. One of the best clubs.
I think another good thing is bringing in new players. I mean, a lot of defenders and a lot of clubs know how to set up against Celtic, and they know, right, well, Kuhn's going to come up the right wing, he's going to come in the inside, he's going to try and do a dummy, and so on and so forth. And the same as Yang or even Jamesy. But having a new player who's got a box of tricks, it's going to be another thing we can do, another way we can play that's sort of less predictable. This guy that was talking about is called Diabate. He's 29. He played for Leicester under Rodgers, and he's a Mali international. He's 8 goals, 9 assists for Lausanne Sport, which is a French team, I think. So, Rodgers, he likes players who can play in a couple of positions. I imagine he would be a winger. I don't think he's going to be another Jeffrey Schlupp, but he sort of fits the profile of Rodgers. Has worked with him before. He couldn't get it. He couldn't get on for Leicester because Ndidi was playing, I think. Or again, I don't know too much about the Leicester group, but
Mm.
anybody who's unpredictable, who's not going to be the same, you can bring something different to the game. I'm always looking for somebody who's not a baller, but what do you call your guy that was, remember, he tattoos and his hair was all Haksabanovic. I liked him because it was something different, but he sort of didn't really, you know, he looked a good player and then he wasn't very consistent. But at this level, we need guys that can come in, hit the ground running, and if Rogers knows him and he trusts him and he's coached him before, it's a no brainer.
Well, we could have a Tim from Timbuktu then, because
Well, yeah,
that's where
there you go.
that's in Mali. Did you know that? Timbuktu is in Mali.
Timbuktu. That reminds me of a joke. Me
Are
and
you going
Tim
to
went
be able
out
to
one
tell
night and we were chatting up these couple of girls.
it?
So
See where this is going.
Tim and I didn't. No, it's
Timbuktu.
Right.
sorry
So
for the
then
female audiences there. All two of them.
Hans McNugget is talking about Newgren, I think that, or Newgren, or whatever,
Nigel.
however that's pronounced. He's a Swede.
Hmm.
This is also
Yeah.
in the papers. So yet another winger, 23-year
Yeah,
old,
In their league,
this
play
is
on either wing or in the 10 role. Somebody mentioned earlier, we just need a guy,
yeah.
one who can play on either wing, maybe, or
yeah,
a variety of positions.
And the
6 months
Swedish
left on his
league's
deal.
currently live, isn't it? It's the Swedes play during the summer. So if he'd be match fit if he came in. I'm thinking the Champions League qualifiers would be very, yeah, I like the look of him.
yeah. It seems to fit our profile a lot more than the 29-year-old that Brian mentioned.
Yeah.
I know Brendan's worked with him before, but I don't really see Celtic going for 29-year-olds and bringing them in. It's always good to have a good blend of youth and experience, but I believe the players that will retain at the club, Kieran Tierney and stuff coming back, is going to bring that mentality. Leaders all over the pitch. It's very much up in the air, of course, as we expect during the transfer window. It's all speculation, but some of these stories seem to have more legs than
They do,
others.
don't
The
they? Yeah.
last one mentioned there, definitely Swedish international, 23 years old, really can play left wing, right wing, or in the 10 role. Brendan loves a Swiss Army knife of a player who can play in various positions and give us cover. So I think that one looks like really promising. Looks like I would be happy with that transfer. Of course, I don't know much about these players. None of us do. None of
It
us are
does.
pretending to
Yeah.
be experts, but we know enough to when it ticks the boxes, when it seems to tick the boxes, that this looks like a goer. This one could be right. We've mentioned a couple of them there, and of course, there's going to be endless amount of wingers mentioned here, and it just remains to be seen as that foreshadowing the departure of Kuhn and Yang and players like that.
Yeah,
I
I wonder
certainly
what's
hope
going
it
on.
is. I certainly
Yeah.
hope it's time for a refresh with these players, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's. Remember, we've got obviously the selling model, but we also had a model a couple of years ago that we bought the best player in. And remember, we bought Giamakis. He was the top scorer in the Dutch league. We bought Awada, who was the player of the year, and then Abada was the player of the year in the Israeli league. So we haven't really done that in the last couple of years. But it's always good to have a new body about the place, a new mentality, a new way of doing things, because I think the dressing room is a bit stale at the minute, and it's certainly missing a Kyogo kind of player in there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, well, we'll get to the striking position later on, but when it comes to wingers, personally, I'm happy to show Yang the door and get a couple of these players in. That would be good for me. I love Nicholas Kuhn. I don't forget what he did for us last season. I know his form went off a cliff, and all the amateur body language experts and our fans tell us that he doesn't give a fuck about playing for Celtic, but, you know, I don't know if there's any truth in that at all. I just think he was brilliant early on in the season, and his form wasn't great. But that sort of concludes the players that are getting speculated about a lot. And I think that a couple of signings are going to come from those players that we've spoken about already. So after this little message, we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the more fanciful ones, maybe, and the things that are definitely not going to happen, we think. But this is probably the most important 7 seconds of the show.
Hot dang. I only recently discovered a Celtic World. And it is totally dope. For Celtic fans in the US, it's da bomb. And you know how much we love bombs. Subscribing? Hells yeah.
Yeah, so subscribe. The Americans love that bit, taking the piss out of them for being such warmongers, military industrial complex leaders. I'm going to have to make another one that's not quite so charged. I think maybe just referencing the National Guard being called into Los Angeles.
Was it not the Marines?
And the Marines.
And the Marines, yeah.
And maybe mention Elon Musk calling Donald Trump out for being on the flight roster of the Epstein flights. Because that really hit the fan with him too, didn't it? Trouble in paradise.
Has he not apologised? He's come out.
He's winding his neck back in.
He's winding his neck in. Yeah.
He doesn't have any. He
doesn't have
James Forrest.
We have to apologise for the rampant speculation that we're about to do now and some of these other ones. But maybe you tell me if you think they're not outrageous. This is a new one that I've seen. Celtic are interested in Josh Doig, former Hibs left back, or gets Sassuolo.
Mm-hmm. I think
cover for Tierney.
I think if Doig was coming in, if we didn't get Kieran Tierney, if he'd went elsewhere, then Doig would have been an ideal signing to come in and play there. I don't see him coming in as cover for Kieran Tierney. I think that's a bit, considering he's playing first team football in Italy and whatnot, I just don't see him coming in as cover. I think that one's a no-goer. Although it looks good there and the kind of player and profile who I'd love to be cover behind Kieran Tierney, I just don't think that's a goal, that one. I think he's doing too well where he is to come and play second fiddle to Kieran Tierney. We know there's like 60 games a season for Kieran Tierney to play, and his fitness is in question, his ability to stay fit and injury-free. But there's definitely room there for another left-back to come in, 100%. I just don't think that one holds much weight for me. A nice one for the postcard.
What about this one, Brian? Dimir Tiknaz. Yeah, we've been following this story. This is a guy. What's the full story here? Does anyone know? He was Rio Ave. We're about the.
Yeah,
he's a loan spell, and the original club was going to buy him back or something. I don't know.
The Jack Henry. Remember Jack Henry situation? They're going to flip him. So he was.
There's a buyout clause.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had he went on loan. He went on loan, and while he was on loan, having a fantastic season, his values just inflated. So the club where he's at on loan, I think they have a buyout clause of around 5 million that they were triggering on Tuesday. I don't know if that actually happened. I never followed up to see if that actually happened, but they're supposedly just like Brian says, they're going to buy him for the 5 million, and Celtic are going to come in and flip that straight away. Maybe pay about 8 million for him. Remains to be seen if it happened. I don't know if anyone in the chat there.
The most recent thing I heard was that wasn't happening at all. They don't even have the money to do it. Unless Nicholson gets on the phone and says, listen, we'll give you what you need to trigger it, and then we'll pay you the rest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that could be done.
Is that the Turkish guy?
Yeah, Besiktas.
He looks decent. He's about 6 foot. You know me and my height. He's a big physical kind of guy who would be able to, as Kaiser said, give us a bit of support in the midfield for the Glasgow derby, because we have been getting bullied out of the game a wee bit.
Mm-hmm.
Be good to have somebody to come in and let them know that we're here. Sort of Zimunovic kind of Kenny Miller-esque, which I just love. Every time I'm feeling depressed, I just stick that on.
For the legends in the chat, right, when we go live here, I also share it to my YouTube channel. So sometimes people come in and comment, and we see the comments come on the screen. But you can see Gav will be able to see on the screen, it's got like a little link. They may be on my channel watching the exact same live. If you come over to a Celtic World, then people in the chat there will be able to see your comments. Don't think you're blocked in that, legends. Square Sausage Mick blocks no one.
No, he's commenting from Twitter, not
Yeah.
YouTube. So
Yeah.
that's what's going on there. We touched on Kvistgaarden or Kvistgaard. Makes his debut for Denmark. This is him saying goodbye to the fans. This one really fucking annoys me because, as you said quite rightly earlier on there, Kaja, we were all over this guy when nobody had heard of him, and it
Mm-hmm.
was whatever the numbers were. I heard they wanted 6, and we wouldn't go beyond 5.5. You mentioned 5 and 4, but it was something like that. It was like an extra million or 500,000 here or there to get him in the door 2 years ago. And now
And
West Ham and all these other teams are
Yeah,
sniffing around, and
he'd be
it's up to
12.5 million
yeah.
to get him.
yeah, I understand. Like when Celtic don't want to be ripped off, of course, you want to get bang for your buck. You want to get value for your money. But it seems foolish that we're in there bidding 4 million for a 5 million rated player. Just give them the 5 million. We've got the money. It seems so foolish. Or you come to terms and you go, okay, we'll give you the 4 million right now, and given appearances and goal scoring and how he does at Celtic, we'll increase that. Should he play well, and at a sell-on clause as well. It's really, really, it seems really simple to do. It does make me look at Celtic sometimes and think, well, trapped in the 1980s, run by business dinosaurs. These guys need to develop their game and grow up a bit and run as like a big club. Actually stop rattling the biscuit tin and worrying about the pennies. Get out there and make these things happen.
Well, is Tisdale making things happen? Asks JJ. Starting to earn his coin. He was definitely behind Sinisalo and maybe now the Welsh kid, Osman.
Mm-hmm.
Was
That's an interesting point, isn't it?
he got Doan back as well, I think. Or is
Yeah,
that David Fleet?
It remains to be seen whether the footballing doctor is going to be worth his money, but this window is going to highlight it. This is the one where we're going to really take a look at it and see what he does. I have marked him DNR for do not resuscitate, because if he drops the ball here and we have another disastrous window like we had in January, with Kyogo going out the door and no one coming in, it's not going to be good. And I know we had brought in Pleat, was it? I thought he was into Scout the Necropolis. The guy's like 140 years old. I thought he was in next door just doing rubbings of tombstones and stuff with a crayon and the sugar paper. I'm like, what's going on here? But massive contacts in the game, and I expect Celtic to be shopping in that window, championship and stuff, finding players there are nothing gems.
Didn't Brendan say that if he was able to keep all the current squad fit, he would need 3 players? Okay, so straight away, there's 3 players we need. Plus Hatate's injured, Jota's injured, KT is Taylor's away, and KT is not. I don't know if he's fully fit yet. So you'd be like to think there's a minimum 6 players coming in, and this before anyone leaves. If Brendan said he wants to keep the existing squad plus add 3. So straight away, the one player would be a striker or a goal scorer to replace Kyogo.
Where I was going to go with this.
Sorry,
Next
Calvin.
question is, are we expecting a big name striker to come in this summer? Is that a given?
I don't have a big name, but a striker certainly.
Or a striker to come in and be the man.
Yeah,
or
a first team striker to come in and hit the ground running is, yeah.
I wonder who that might be.
Yeah, still talk of French Eddie. Mentioned French Eddie so long ago. For me, I love big French Eddie. I thought he was fantastic. And the season that he left, obviously a horror season for the club. But people suggesting, French Eddie down tools. The guy scored 20 odd goals before he left. If that's him down in tools, I'd like to see him coming back and passionate. He knows what he's been away from at Celtic as well. Sometimes you say that you need to love and loss to know exactly what you had. So I wouldn't be averse to French Eddie coming in. Players that strike fear into European defences, a name of renown. Kvistgaard, as we all know, was not a name of renown. No one knew who he was before we were mentioned and brought him to highlight. No doubt scouting teams across Europe are watching players out there. Just like to see Celtic do their business diligently, get in there and, okay, this first window, I can take that on the chin, linked with players and touching base and making contact with agents and whatnot, get all that stuff out of the road before the next window and really strike while the iron's hot. Go out there and start bringing these players in, making positive moves. Don't be reactive, be proactive. That's a big problem with Celtic and Celtic's board. They're always reactive. They react to situations. Kyogo goes down and holds his shoulder. We bring in Adam Ida. See, if you were proactive there instead of reactive, we wouldn't have our pants pulled down for extra money, and they wouldn't be in the back pockets and chasing the change under the couch, you know. So we need to be proactive here. It's massive change at Celtic. I think it's going to be going down. I think I have a list of like 15 players that I've seen going out the door, and I'm looking to add 5 or 6 first-team players in the region of 10 to 14 million and another 5 or 6 squad players. Are these players we're seeing mentioned here? Are they the genuine first-team articles that we're all looking for? Or are these the squad players in the depth that we never had coming from the bench before? Because that made definitely the game in Germany, the Munich game, looked at their bench and the players that they were bringing on, the quality they were bringing on at the end of the game, as opposed to us bringing on players like Yang. And for all Yang's worth, right, we've got to praise the guy's commitment and his work ethic. Hard work beats talent unless talent works hard. Yang definitely beat out a few other wingers there who are more talented but not working as hard. He had great attitude and stuff. I do just think it's time for players like Kwon and Yang to move on. Celtic need a refresh. We need players who are in there and really competing for spots.
This isn't the striker we're all hoping for, is it, Brian? Ferguson.
I think he's a guy living on past glories, and I know he's only 20, but he broke into the Brighton team when he was about 17, 18, and then he was injured.
What happened to him? Injury?
Injury, but I think he was linked with United as well at one stage. Man United.
Well, they all thought he was going to the very top.
Yeah, and then
suddenly he's kind of cut adrift.
Again, a player like Sutton, who's something to prove, who could come in and try and prove all these kind of doubters wrong. I know he is a Celtic fan. Ticks a few boxes, but if given the choice between getting Eddie on a free and getting Evan Ferguson and paying money, I'll be taking Eddie every day of the week. And because he can take a dead ball, you know, many's the time Eddie scored a free kick for us, got us out of jail, and we all know his quality in Europe. Whether he wants to come or not is another thing. But with Brendan being there, Brendan signed him, and as much as I love Lenny, maybe he didn't get that kind of development he needed with Neil. But with Brendan being there again, and if Edward has something to prove, certainly, because he didn't set the league alight by any stretch of imagination. Again, he was nowhere near Palace or Leicester. You know, when you think of how bad Leicester were, and he wasn't even.
I don't think any of these are going to happen. This last section that we talked about. I think this is just pure speculation, really. But it'd be good if we could hear some striker links, and you know, like a midfielder and a central defender. That's what would really get the blood pumping.
Well, what we definitely need is a left back, because Taylor's away. Definitely need left back. You can say KT's in, but we need cover. Definitely need a striker. Well. We definitely need another centre back who can play alongside CCV.
Well, do you think Brendan thinks that? Do you think he definitely needs skills and weak as piss to be replaced?
I don't think he'll be as keen to just shut them out the door, but he should be. We should be looking to move these players on. I gave Gav values and everything. I'm valuing Liam Scales at 7 million, and people think I'm insane. Like, that's insane. Liam Scales, 7 million. I'm like, one man of the match and stuff in Champions League. He clearly has a ceiling. We all seen it. He's not the finished article. But if we were trying to acquire a player with that kind of experience, 7 million, and people would be like, no problem. I do think we've got a lot of players there, like Gav says, sort the wheat from the chaff, throw them into the wind and see where the pieces lie, see who comes in, who looks for them, who's wanting them. Players like Kwon, Yang, Adam Ida as well. I would be transfer listing them all and seeing if they have any suitors, anyone out there. For me, I like big Adam Ida. I think he has all the ability in the world. He just lacks that a bit of mentality. He needs that big dick attitude. He just doesn't have. He needs that. I don't know. There's just something about him that you need to succeed at a club like Celtic. You need to have that. You need to be the top man, and you need to know you're the top man.
Guys, or see with Hatate being injured currently, and I don't think he'll be back. And I don't think he'll be back until after maybe October, which is going to be difficult. I would try and get a tune out of Gustavo home or Thiago home, Odin Thiago home, Gustavo home.
Geez, I've forgotten about him.
I think there's a player there, and he was exposed. He came with this confidence about him that he Odin Thiago, and then he got his wings clipped because he made a bit of a. Then he gets sent off against was a Feyenoord, or he and then he just his confidence went to bits, and I think he put something up about the Glasgow derby. He put a tweet up or something as well, and that didn't go down too well with Brendan. I can't remember what he said. It was like something like he's pissing on the Rangers again or something. I don't know what it was. But I would like to get him back in and get a tune out of him because he was decent. He had a bit of promise and he had a bit of.
I think he's on loan in the USA, Miami or something. I think he is. I know he'll be returning in January, coming back in the January window, like probably when Jota and stuff.
He's still on loan to January.
I know. Right. Yeah, their season kind of crosses over our season, the start of our season and stuff. So like he just started playing for them. I've not heard much about Odin Thiago home, a player that I really like as well, Brian. One of that on the golden boy list of European football and stuff. Celtic could really get a tune out on. But as we're saying here, right, we need to look at the setup we play right now. And as people are saying, we do need someone besides CCV, a player of real quality. But that's supposing we stick to the same tactical setup. I don't know if Brendan's going to do that. It seems very simple to me when teams play a low block. You hit shots from range and force our defenders to come out and challenge the ball. But as long as you've got somebody who can shoot from range doing it, Turnbull was a great asset for it. Callum McGregor added a few goals from range, can definitely strike a ball. But there's players at Celtic who you hold out hope for, like hold out hope that he'll come back and do something. He'll turn whatever's went wrong with his initial transfer and coming in. I think it was in the Champions League, he lunged in a challenge and get sent off. And you know what Brendan's like, he's a bit of an egomaniac. So when you get put on and he gives you a chance and you mess it up, it certainly makes you suffer for it.
Do you think Kaiser is a segue into Brendan, that they're going to be tightening the purse strings until Brendan maybe signs a new deal, which I wouldn't care either way. I don't mean I wouldn't care either way. You still need to have succession plan and you still need to bring players in regardless of who's going to be the manager. The team need, and that's why I was always wanting to get a technical director in so we can do that. But is there something behind that, do you think, that because Rodgers hasn't committed to another 2 or 3 years, the board are going, maybe we'll just see here?
There's always that tic-tac-toe game of chicken that the board and Brendan Rodgers play. The board would insinuate we're not going to spend all this money on Brendan Rodgers' choice of players if Brendan's not going to sign a new deal. And Brendan will go, I'm not going to sign a new deal unless you're investing in me and show me that you're committed. Both of them are equally right and equally wrong. I love the idea of a director of football, so to speak. I would love to bring in someone like Martin O'Neill and ensure that continuity across transfers and across managers. It doesn't matter what manager we bring in because it should all be within the Celtic ethos. Players coming in to play the Celtic way. It seems so simple. It's like a no-brainer. It does it itself. I would also have players like Nakamura, ex-players. I would have him in charge of all of our scouting across Asia and bringing players in and recommending players to Celtic. And then there's players like Izagiri. We're mentioning players for Ecuador and Honduras, and there's Izagiri's there. You know, we have these players who are talented and know what it takes to make it at Celtic and can recognise talent. I think Victor Wanyama, while being in Canada, suggested Alistair Johnston. So it's something that we need to really take a look at. It shouldn't be locked down to what manager signs and what manager doesn't sign, because football's a radical world and things can change in a heartbeat.
They can indeed, and it would be remiss of us not to discuss the changes going on elsewhere. in Glasgow,
Mhm.
would it not?
Yeah.
Things are happening over there. Before we do, here's a gratuitous picture of Lamine Yamal's dad in more of his Celtic clobber,
There we
just
go.
because that's an interesting one. Looks like Russell Martin's going to be as welcome at Ibrox, the Sheriff of Rock Ridge. No, no,
Yeah.
no, God damn it. I said the sheriff is a nidang.
I seen pictures of his wife, and I have said that he loves two big biddies up front, so Dossers will probably be staying. But I don't know, right? Sometimes you don't always get what you want, but sometimes you get exactly what you need. And I think that's what's happening across the city. This guy's going to come in, he's going to play tough football. He's going to try and reform that team, and they're certainly going to be run better behind the scenes than they've been run.
For sure.
Again, brushing over that, the COVID season, they had a lot of players who were based in Britain, and we had a lot of players whose relatives were locked down in other countries and weren't allowed out and stuff. Radical times. What happened during that season, I can understand players from the continent worried about their family and wanting to go home,
And
wanting to get back.
Bowling goalie going off to meet with some lady.
Off to get his jam roll in Spain. But I just liked Bowling Goalie because his name was his song was a Tupac song, and it was Bowling Goalie, Hallelujah. And I was if nothing else, I want him to succeed for that reason. You just picture a Paradise singing that in full voice.
Never forgiven him for losing. He was the architect of our downfall. That guy. I know that
Nicola Sturgeon. I blame Nicola Sturgeon.
Yeah.
Well, listen, back to Russell Martin. The one thing that worries me more than anything else is this. Hugh Keevins has written him off, and Hugh Keevins gets nothing right.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a concern.
Well, as I say, I've seen some of the football he plays. He sets his teams up very well, very Brendan-esque. But if Rangers come out and play,
coach.
If they come out and play that way against Celtic, then the better players are going to win, and we just should be equipped with players who are far superior. Seen everything about them last season just highlighted that they were a counter-attacking side. When they were left with the ball, they fell over the top of it. But when they were playing against sides of quality and they had to work and defend between the lines, they were actually really good in transition and counter-attacking football. But times have changed. Times are changing at Ibrox, and I'm across the street, but I'm remiss to go down there and start celebrating their disappointment. Allow them to be disappointed. It's the hope that kills them.
Keevins is brick top from Snatch.
He needs to get a drink of water.
I know, he's so
gravelly
dehydrated.
voice. Like, I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, it's hard to listen to. I mean, I don't mind the wee guy. What's his name? The wee guy with the presenter with the black hair. He's quite funny. And even Gordon
From Oban.
What's his name?
He's from Oban, is he? That fella, the guy who does the referee thing with the monthly.
The guy that does Sky Sports Clyde Sports phone in. He's not bad. DL's not too bad. I know Holiday's a bit flipping jumpy. But your man Keevins, how could you listen to him? I know, how can you listen to me? Like,
when I see his teeth, it's just he's got teeth like a roller condemned hussies. He's got amber leaf teeth, methadone breath. I'm like, this guy, man, look at his teeth. They're absolutely corrupted.
I was listening to that the other day, and Gordon DL was on.
Gordon Duncan, that's the one.
I snuck a wee audio bit, and I'm trying to work out how I can play it. So I'll just play it now, and you can tell me when it's appropriate in future shows.
Gav couldn't quite get it out.
No way, Gav!
Gav couldn't quite get it out.
No way, Gav!
Gav couldn't quite get it out.
No way, Gav!
Well, in every situation, Gav.
And Gordon DL going, no way, Gav!
No way, Gav. What was it I called you on Facebook? Lady Gav Gav? We need more music from Lady Gav Gav.
Very good. Oh yeah, I got to work on some music over the low season as well. I've got a few, the lyrics are written, the music is saved, the karaoke version. But I've got to, book myself into the studio and lay down some vocals.
We need a few more catchphrases, Gav. They were fun.
Oh,
They were fabulous. They were really good. They were good crack.
yeah.
If-
Okay. Well, I'll look into that too. But you haven't done any new music for ages, really. It's been a while. But look, we're wrapping it up here, lads. This is just a little sort of catch up, little refresh chat, because we haven't been on for a while and we won't be on again until 2 weeks from now to have a similar chat like this.
Give us
Next
some
week,
rap, Gav.
is that rap with the silent C? Uh,
Gav the rap god.
we're next week we're talking to Dundee Celtic Travel Club, so that'll be good. It'll be next Thursday's show. Gonna record with them on Tuesday or something like that. So that'll be fun. So thanks to everyone in the comments for sticking with us. I know the low season's a bit crap. And it's just, it drives me mad watching the usual daily Celtic channels and just all the pish that fills the air and all this information flowing into your head and then flowing out again because
Yeah.
none of it's
As
of
I, as I
any.
said, as I said, Gav, for me, as much as the people chatting, right, as much as you come on to chat, it's just like a conversation with chat as well. Chat interaction is key.
Mhm.
You see how many people are in there. Stephen, Lindsay, Sligo, all the legends, Square Sausage, Mick. We even had Keith faking on the Hoops Celtic in there earlier on. I don't know if Keith's still there. Big shout out to Keith as well. Go and check out his channel, Legends. Great guy. But it's like it's a religious thing for me. I get up in the morning, I have my cup of green tea, I sit down and I go, let's see who's getting mentioned today. And you have the patter and chat, meet up with the people, as well as when you come on and I get to chat to you guys as well. Outstanding. So, like, people do love it. People do turn up for it, regardless of what's happening or what not happening at Celtic. Celtic is more than a football club. It's woven
No
into
sign
our
of Monty.
DNA.
Guys or no? Is Monty in the chat?
Monty
today.
will be hanging upside down naked somewhere.
Well, I've managed to get away with the Alberts sort of slagging, so
yeah, Monty's not there. He just came in, he'd be like Brian Alberts. This last comment.
Where's yeah.
All
See
right,
you.
lads. Well, look, it was good to catch up with you two.
Yeah.
Good to see your handsome faces, and we'll hopefully see you again before too long. As for everyone in the chat, like I say, thanks for joining. Keep an eye out for the American show. Goes out on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, which is middle of the night.
Monty's
Isn't it 1
shaving his
o'clock? I think
armpits.
1 o'clock. Monty is shaving his armpits.
Monty's away for his appointment with Seneca. He's getting a comb over.
All
We
right,
need,
well, on
we,
that
we need a
bombshell,
sponsorship on here, Gav.
we'll wrap it up. Yes, Seneca or S1 Jobs or some other bullshit.
Manscaped.
We are on once a week. It's either with CSC or us coming on just to talk shite. So we're still making a weekly show throughout the low season. All right, everyone. Until next time, farewell. Thanks for
Hail,
joining
hail.
us, Kaiser and Brian.
Hail
Take it easy.
legends.